The prophecy revealed full breakdown of the 12 tribes of Israel. Shalom, all praises to Ahaya, the Most High, in the name of Yahshua, Jesus, and the Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit. Repent, seek the Most High, and you shall find. Through precepts get understanding. Isaiah 28:10. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Psalm 119:104. Through thy precept as I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way. Have an open mind. Do your own research. Many people today identify with labels such as African American, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Indian, Pacific Islander, Christian, or Catholic. However, the Bible provides clarity on the true identities of the nations and how heathen nations have deceived those who are now at the bottom of society, what many call the minorities. Humble yourselves, and those who have ears to hear, listen. The hidden knowledge. This knowledge has been hidden for generations, but the Most High declared that in the last days knowledge would increase. Daniel 12:4. His people would begin to wake up to who they are and recognize the truth around them. Understanding our true identity is essential because if we do not see ourselves in the Bible, how can we trust that pastors, preachers, and teachers are giving accurate information? How can we be certain they themselves have not been misled? During slavery, our ancestors were forced into Christian instruction, but how do we know we are following the Bible as it was intended? Revelation 12:9 states, Satan has deceived the whole world. If Satan has deceived the world, how do we know we have not been deceived? Continue reading, and you will see that the Bible is not just a religious text, but a historical record, our forefathers' book. James 4:10. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Matthew 18:4. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Isaiah 28:9. Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts. The 12 lost tribes of Israel. Who are the lost tribes of Israel? Hosea 4:1. Hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel, for the Lord hath a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, nor mercy, nor knowledge of God in the land. Religion exists worldwide, and churches are found on nearly every corner, yet the Most High declares that there is no knowledge of Him in the land. This is because the true knowledge of God is not being taught. Colossians 1:26. Even the mystery which hath been hid from ages and from generations, but now is made manifest to his saints. According to Hosea 6:1, God promised to raise his people in the last days and reveal the mysteries that had been hidden for generations. He would restore their identity, and they would cleave unto him. The bloodline of Israel. Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham was the progenitor of the African races, but not the Negroes. Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Japheth became the progenitor of the Asian races. Shem became the progenitor of many nations, including Abraham. Through Abraham, the Most High established his chosen seed. Abraham had Isaac, and Isaac had Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel after his encounter with an angel. Jacob, Israel, had 12 sons, who became the 12 tribes of Israel: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Benjamin, Asher, Zebulun, Dan, Issachar, Joseph, Gad, and Naphtali. Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, took his place and became 2 individual tribes. Dan's unrighteousness led to their assimilation among the Gentiles. Christ's mission to the lost tribes. Matthew 10:5-6. These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Deuteronomy 32:21. They have moved me to jealousy with that which is not God. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. Because Israel strayed from the Most High, he placed a foolish nation above them, a nation that thrives on wealth and the oppression of others. Deuteronomy 7:6-7. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. Psalm 147, verses 19-20. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. Identifying the tribes now. The lost 10 tribes. Let's first focus on 10 of the 12 tribes and how they came to being in the Americas. 2 Kings 17:1. In the 12th year of Ahaz king of Judah began Hoshea the son of Elah to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. In 721 BC, Hosea was king of Samaria. That's key to identifying the time we are in. 2 Kings 17-17. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. 2 Kings 17:1-18. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only. So the northern kingdom of Israel, where 10 of the tribes dwelt, were practicing that which was very unlawful. So the Most High removed them from the land, and only the southern kingdom, Judah, which consisted of the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and half of Levi, stayed in the land. Only for a short time, though. Now let's go into the Apocrypha, 14 books which were taken out of the Bible, to see where these 10 tribes went in 721 BC. These are the lost rural tribes of Israel. 2 Esdras 3:39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him. 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land, in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. So the 10 tribes would go to another land during the time of Hoshea the king. 2 Esdras 13:41. But they took this counsel amongst themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt. 42. That they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. 43. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. 44. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood, till they were passed over. 45. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely, of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. So they took it among themselves that they would leave the heathen. This is because they were not keeping the commandments. They would leave the heathen and go to a country where never mankind dwelt. It took the North American Indians, the Native Americans, the Aborigines of Central and South America, a year and a half to get here to the Americas. The Bible calls this land Arsareth. They took the Euphrates River into the ocean to get over here, and God held the water still, because he wanted only them to come over here. The Europeans thought the world was flat because whenever they would send a ship out far into the Atlantic, it would not come. This isn't the case. He didn't leave the waters still for them, because he wanted only his people to get this promised land. Esdras 13:46. Then dwelt they there until the latter time. And now when they shall begin to come, 47. The highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. 48. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders. 49. Now when he destroyed the multitude of the nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remains. 50. And then shall he show them great wonders. They would dwell in this place until the last days, and they are still in their geographical regions today, even though most of the people underwent genocide. Matching the nation with their tribe, Gen 49:1. And Jacob called unto his sons, and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gen 49:2. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. The last days occur from the time Christ died till the present time. Hebrews 1:2. Reuben, Seminole Indian, Gen 49:3. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Gen 49:4. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, the defiled thou it. He went up to my couch. Reuben was the firstborn son of Jacob. Gen 29:32. The tribe of Reuben was part of the 10 tribes which came to the Americas. My might and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity. Jacob was letting Reuben know that being the firstborn was a blessing because all strength, power, and wealth would be given to the firstborn. When he goes on about his dignity, this describes their characteristics. Dignity means the nobility of character, or their respectfulness. The Seminole Indian possessed this in their dress attire. They wore mitres and garments of excellent design. The priests of the children of Israel wore these because they were chosen to do the service of the Most High. They also had pride in their nation. The Seminole Indians were the only tribe of the civilized Indian nations who didn't participate in the enslavement of the Negroes. They also participated in slave revolts alongside their brothers. The Europeans could not break Reuben because of their honor and pride, which led to brutal warfare. A lot of wars were fought, and a great number of our people were lost, but because of their dignity, they never willingly signed a peace treaty with the Europeans. They were tricked into signing one, but they were the greatest enemy the Europeans encountered. Verse 4. Unstable as water. They were unstable as water because they moved around so much. In the time of the Spanish invasion, they were known as a nomadic people, moving from place to place, coast to coast among the islands to the point that they ended up in Florida, originally being in the mountains of Quito in South America. Verse 4. Thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, the defiled thou it. He went up to my couch. Reuben was not going to excel as far as getting the birthright, because he slept with Jacob's concubine, Gen 35:22, 1 Chron 5:1. So, because of this sin, he did not excel, and his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph. Further proof. The following is what happened to Antonio Montesinos, a Spanish explorer, when he visited the Seminole Indians in the mountains of Quito, prior to their migration to Florida. The passage contains what was told to him by the Seminoles concerning their identity and the identity of their brothers located in Puerto Rico and Cuba. This information is found in Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders on page 363-365. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montesinos, and to his utter astonishment said, Shema Yisroel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ehod. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. They had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism. They told him that they were themselves of the tribe of Reuben and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby. Only the sorcerers of his tribe had perceived that they were a special people and had been warned that they should be left alone. The God of these children of Israel is the true God, they had said, and everything inscribed on their tablets is true. At the end of days, they will be lords of all the nations of the earth. One nation will come bringing many things to this land, and after we have all been provided for, these children of Israel will go forth from where they now are and reign over the whole earth as they once did. Simeon and Levi, Dominicans and Haitians, scattered regions of the earth. Gen 49:5. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. Gen 49:6. O my soul, come not thou into their secret. Unto their assembly, mine honor, be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self will they dig down a wall. Gen 49:7. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. The tribe of Simeon was part of the 10 tribes who came over into the land of Arsareth, America, according to 2 Esdras 13:40-44. They inhabited the island of Hispaniola and were conquered by the Spaniards. The tribe of Levi, along with Judah and Benjamin, were sold into captivity by Africans and Arabs. The Europeans then put them on ships and sold them as slaves. Gen 49:5. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. All Jacob's sons are brothers, but he describes Simeon and Levi as brothers because in the last days they would live together in one place, the island of Hispaniola. These instruments of cruelty means they are heavily invoked in witchcraft and the worship of Satan. Levi were the priests in the past. They were holy unto the Most High, but now they participate in spiritual cruelty. Haitians practice voodoo. Dominicans practice brujeria. Gen 49:6. O my soul, come not thou into their secret. Unto their assembly, mine honor, be not thou united. This means Jacob does not want us to learn the knowledge of their witchcraft. When it says their assembly, this also shows they will be dwelling together in one place, Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, and Haiti. Then it says, be thou not united, because they are brethren, but they are separated. And this is why you have the division between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Gen 49:7. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. The Most High divided and scattered the tribe of Levi, Mal 2:1. And now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. Mal 2:8. But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. The tribe of Levi has strayed from the commandments. Because of slavery, they have adopted witchcraft and voodoo. Mal 2:9. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Now they aren't teaching their people to keep the commandments, but are teaching lies they've learned under Christianity, causing many Levites to fall. There was a curse put on Levi Haitians till this day. They are disliked and considered the most impoverished, lowest people among all the tribes of Israel. This was punishment for not keeping and teaching God's commandments, but mixing the belief in the Most High with pagan idolatry. Judah, American Negro. The tribe of Judah, American blacks, along with Benjamin and Levi, were sold into captivity by the Africans and the Arabs to the Europeans, Psalms 83. The Europeans then transported them in chains on slave ships to America to serve hard bondage as slaves. They came to America on cargo slave ships between the late 1500s, early 1800s, Deuteronomy 28:64-68. Gen 49:1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gen 49:8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. All the tribes of Israel would praise Judah because of bringing them the truth and the risks they took to bring forth the kingdom, but also because this is the same tribe Christ would come from. Hebrews 7:14. When it says they shall be in the neck of thine enemies, when you view history, you see all which the Americans blacks have gone through in the time they've been here in the Americas. They've fought for everything we have today: education, desegregation, civil rights, truth, housing, and jobs. They marched and boycotted and did all they could to help their people. This resulted in death, lynching, being burned, hosed, attacked by dogs, whipped, raped, sodomized. They have fought to bring the truth out about who we are as Israelites till this day, that the so-called Negroes and scattered Indians in Americas are God's chosen people. When it says, neck of thine enemies, it is giving you the exact geographical location of the tribe of Judah, North America. Zach 2:6, Ho, ho, come forth, and flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven, saith the Lord. 7. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. Psalms 137:7. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it even to the foundation thereof. 8. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be, that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. This shows the daughter of Babylon is North America, or the United States, and that Edom, Europeans, would be the head, the leaders of this place, and the neck of our enemies. Zach 12:7. The Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. The Most High promised that he would save the tents of Judah first by giving them the understanding of the Scriptures so they could teach the other tribes and bring them into the true knowledge of Christ. This way all of Israel would acknowledge Judah as the head tribe. Gen 49:9, Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? This shows that Judah is like a fearless lion cub, but is just like it in the way that, as it searches its prey, it gives up the hunt and becomes distracted. Their prey is the other nations who are against them. The distractions are everything we see around us: philosophy, religion, selling drugs, killing each other. We've become distracted and have lost sight of who our enemy is. And when it says we couched down and as an old lion, this shows at one point we started to get ready to go against our enemies and all who were against us, for example, during the 50s and 60s when we formed militant groups, but became distracted and got tired and gave up. This was because of the drugs pushed into our community and the diabolical plot by the Illuminati, FBI, and CIA to keep us lost and sleep. Who shall rouse him up? Only the Most High can rouse him up. Rev 11:11. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet. And great fear fell upon them which saw them. Also read Ezekiel 37. 3 days and a half represent 350 years when the majority of slaves were brought to the Americas in 1620. That brings us to around 1970, when the real truth began to be taught and pushed concerning the American Negroes and Indians being the real Jews. Gen 49:10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. This is showing how the rulership would not depart from the tribe of Judah, and that the King of Kings would come from this very tribe. Hebrews 7:14. Shiloh is the peaceable one, which is Yeshua, Jesus Christ, and it would be him who would gather the 12 tribes of Israel. Heb 7:14. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spoke nothing concerning priesthood. So, the same tribe Christ was from was the very same tribe the American blacks are from. Gen 49:11. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. The vine is referring to the grapevine, Matthew 21:12, Zech 9:9. He washed his garments in wine. This is speaking about Christ destroying the Edomite nations who went against his people, Isaiah 63:1-3. Gen 49:12. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. When it says his eyes shall be red with wine, this means Christ would drink so much wine that the iris of his eyes would appear red, Matthew 11:19. Christ's appearance, Daniel 10:5. Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. Dan 10:6. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. Rev 1:13. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. Rev 1:14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. Rev 1:15. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Christ was a black man from the tribe of Judah, just like he's black. So are his people. Du 33:7. And this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou an help to him from his enemies. Judah would have to work and fight for everything he acquires. The American blacks have built this place and invited so many things, and yet claimed by the white man. Jer 22:13. Woe unto him that build out his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that useth his neighbor's service without wages, and giveth him not for his work. Jer 11:13. For according to the number of thy cities were thy gods, O Judah, and according to the number of the streets of Jerusalem have ye set up altars to that shameful thing, even altars to burn incense unto Baal. This explains that wherever Judah would go, there are false set-up churches on every other street worshiping Cesare Borgia, and in a multitude of error. Our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, Hosea 4:6, and they truly have discontinued from their heritage, Jer 17:4. Zebulun, Guatemalans down to Panamanians, Mayans, Gen 49:13. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for a haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Zebulun was also part of the 10 lost tribes who made their way over into the Americas, or as the Bible calls it, the land of Arsareth. In Gen 49:13, Jacob was telling a future prophecy of what shall come to his son Zebulun in the last days. He did the same with all the other sons of him, as said in Genesis 49:1-2. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships. A haven of ships, and being at the haven of the sea, stands for the Panama Canal. The canal was opened to shipping in 1914. It is a 82-kilometer ship canal in Panama that connects the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. It is key for international maritime trade. It decreases the amount of time it takes to bring valuable cargo to America. Find more information on Panama Canal. Du 33:1. And this is the blessing wherewith Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. Du 33:18. And of Zebulun he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. This proves Zebulun, Mayans, and Issachar, Aztecs, would live very near each other. The Mayans would go out of their cities to meet the Aztecs in places of worship within the borders of Mexico, Teotihuacan, at Uxmal, Tocana, Palenque, Chichen Itza, Pico de Orizaca, Tres Zapotes, en la Ventoux, etc. Do 33:19. They shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of treasures hid in the sand. The verse represents the time after Moses' death and in these last days, A.D. They made temples and pyramids, as Israelites have been known to do, 1 Maccabees 13:28. They eventually strayed from righteous worship and sacrifice to wicked human sacrifice and human organs. Hos 8:13. They sacrifice flesh for the sacrifices of mine offerings, and eat it. But the Lord accepted them not. Now will he remember their iniquity and visit their sins. They shall return to Egypt. This shows the 10 tribes would go back into bondage, slavery. The word Egypt in this passage means bondage. Exodus 22. Hos 8:14. For Israel hath forgotten his Maker, and built out temples. And Judah hath multiplied fenced cities. But I will send a fire upon his cities, and it shall devour the palaces thereof. Issachar. Mexicans, Aztecs. Gen 49:14. Issachar is a strong ass couching down between 2 burdens. Gen 49:15. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Issachar was also part of the 10 tribes to make their way over to the Americas during the Assyrian captivity. Gen 49:18. Issachar is a strong ass couching down between 2 burdens. When the verse talks about the burdens of the Issacharites, what his father Jacob is referring to is the long hours and low amount of money the Mexicans are very well known for. For instance, they are some of the hardest working people, working 10-15 hours of the day, or sometimes from morning to night, and yet only getting paid a little amount for their hard work. This has become their burden, receiving little or even no medical benefits and whatnot. Many jobs are beginning to get moved to Mexico from the U.S., so the wages can be brought down. One of the most familiar signs of Mexico is an ass, burro, with 2 large satchels, burdens, on either side of the beast. Gen 49:19. And he saw that rest was good. This shows the rest the Mexicans have from their burdens. They are very well known for their rest during working out in long hours. And the land that it was pleasant. Mexico is one of the world's favorite vacation spots. The land is very fertile and beautiful. Some of the most beautiful beaches and geographical sites reside in Mexico. And bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. When it says he bowed his shoulder, this shows he would serve. Today the Mexicans are well known for being hard workers for little to no money, servant unto tribute. Dew 33:1. And this is the blessing, wherewith Moses the man of God blessed the children of Israel before his death. Dew 33:18. And of Zebulun he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. The tribe of Zebulun, Mayans, would go out and meet the tribe of Issachar, Aztecs, in their mountains at particular seasons and holy days. Dew 33:19. They shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of treasures hid in the sand. The tribe of Issachar would blow the ram's horn to call Zebulun to the mountains, both in their original land of Israel and in the Americas. Back in Israel, these tribes offered sacrifices according to the commandments upon mounds, and their desire was to do the same in another land. They made pyramids, just as their forefathers did in ancient Egypt, although in this land their sacrifices were anything but righteous, sacrificing humans and the flesh of humans. Hos 8:13. They sacrifice flesh for the sacrifices of mine offerings, and eat it. But the Lord accepted them not. Now will he remember their iniquity, and visit their sins. They shall return to Egypt. Hos 8:14. For Israel hath forgotten his Maker, and built out temples, and Judah hath multiplied fenced cities. But I will send a fire upon his cities, and it shall devour the palaces thereof. Over time, the Aztecs and Mayans forgot the laws of the Most High and built temples to other gods. They are at the point where they have a holiday celebrating the Day of the Dead. This was an ancient Babylonian custom, Psalms 106:28. The Mexicans, Aztecs, also had great understanding of times and had superior knowledge of seasons and times. 1:12:32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, the heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment. Dan, Gen 49:16. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Gen 49:17. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that bitten the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. Gen 49:18. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. For the sake of the length of this document, I will bring forth the information on Dan in another document. The tribe of Dan is now considered Gentiles because of the unrighteousness of their forefathers. Gad, North American Indian. Gen 49:19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gen 49:19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him. The troop that overcame the tribe of Gad was the United States Cavalry. Landing on Plymouth Rock in 1620 is what began this war, which then came to a cease at the Battle of Wounded Knee in 1890. Well over 77 million Indians were killed during this time period of 200 years. They murdered so many North American Indians to establish church and state. But he shall overcome at the last. The tribe of Gad shall overcome America and all the nations when the Savior for his second coming, Yahshua, Jesus Christ. PSA 55:20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The US Cavalry came over here and made a covenant with the people, and broke it, and put hands on the North American Indian. Rev 2:26. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. Rev 2:27. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. Deu 33:1. E esta é a bênção, com que Moisés, o homem de Deus, abençoou os filhos de Israel antes da sua morte. Deu 33:20. E de Gade disse: Bendito seja ele que ampliou Gade. O Altíssimo Deus ampliou a tribo de Gade com muitos filhos e filhas, apesar do genocídio que a cavalaria dos Eoa cometeu contra eles. There are over 300 so-called Indian nations that make up the tribe of Gad. He dwelleth as a lion. This shows they dwelt upon the land like lions, fearsome. And teareth the arm with the crown of the head, represent the crown of feathers the Indians wore. The custom of the blood-brother pact was generally done with one who wore the unusual crown of feathers, the war bonnet, to be accepted into the tribe. Deus 33:21. And he provided the first part for himself, because there, in a portion of the lawgiver, was he seated, and he came with the heads of the people, he executed the justice of the Lord, and his judgments with Israel. The North American Indian took the best part of the land of the Americas. This was the land Christopher Columbus was searching for, and called it the mainland. The tribe of Gad acted as the lawgivers during the migration to the Americas. Ephraim and Manasseh were the heads of the people, but Gad executed judgment and justice among the 10 tribes which moved to the Americas. 1:12:8. And of the Gadites there separated themselves unto David into the hold to the wilderness men of might, and men of war fit for the battle, that could handle shield and buckler, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and were as swift as the roes upon the mountains. 1:5:18. The sons of Reuben and the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh, of valiant men, men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war, were 440,703 that went out to the war. Asher, South Americans, Colombians, Venezuelans, Brazilians, Inca. Gen 49:20. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. The tribe of Asher was part of the 10 tribes who came to the Americas. Gen 49:20. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat. This is talking about the choice of foods and abundance of produce located in Brazil, Colombia, Peru, and Venezuela. These countries are the world's biggest producers of cattle, sheep, goat, coffee, castor beans, cocoa, sugar rice, corn, and fruits. And he shall yield royal dainties. Dainties refers to foods of a refined taste and exquisite clothing. They bring these forth during their pagan feasts and festivals. Deut 33:24. And of Asher he said, Let Asher be blessed with children. Let him be acceptable to his brethren, and let him dip his foot in oil. Let Asher be blessed with children. Asher was blessed with children. Many of the Inca were viciously murdered by the so-called white man, Edomites. The Spanish conquest of Incas was led by 2 main conquistadores, Francisco Pizarro and Pedro de Alvarado. They stole their lands, resulting in slaughter and butchers of many Inca Indians. They kidnapped the Inca leader Atahualpa, holding him at ransom. After receiving the payment, they then forced Atahualpa to convert to Catholicism, and afterward garroted and burned him in the midst of his tribesmen. The Spanish, Dutch, French, and Portuguese were heavily involved in the enslavement of the Incas, Asher. Due to high demands for slaves and the natural resources in the lands, battles were fought over these commodities among these 4 groups. Laman 5:2. Our inheritance is turned to strangers, our houses to aliens. The proof of this blessing with the children today is in Brazil, where they have the largest population of children in the world. Due to lack of foster care, orphanages, and welfare, the children are left destitute in the streets without hope. Laman 5:3. We are orphans and fatherless, our mothers are as widows. These children resort to prostitution and robbing tourists to survive. It has gotten so bad that the Brazilian government hires mercenaries from Argentina and Germany to round up these children and murder them without mercy. Verse 24, contained. And let him dip his foot in oil. When you examine all the lands that the Incas, Asher, occupied from Colombia to Uruguay, they were filled with plenty of oil. Out of all the lands, the largest output of crude oil resources in the Americas is found in Colombia. Deut 33:25, Thy shoes shall be iron and brass, and as thy days, so shall thy strength be. This means Asher would be standing on a lot of mineral resources like iron, brass, chromium, nickel, tin, and copper. Note, the Hebrew word for iron is barazal, Brazil. Asher would be a strong tribe. Part 2, 12 Tribes Breakdown. Naphtali, Polynesians, Aborigines of Fiji Islands, Hawaiian Islanders. Gen 49:21. Naphtali is a hind let loose, he giveth goodly words. Naphtali was part of the 10 tribes who came over to the Americas during the time of the Assyrian captivity. The name Naphtali means my wrestling. When it says Naphtali is a hind let loose, just like a deer motion via up and down. The Polys traveled through the oceans, from island to island. The motion represents the sea movement. This is also talking about how free and wild the Polynesians are. They are some of the most free people in the world. You see this from their dancing, their ceremonies, and the way their customs are. He giveth goodly words. The people of the Polynesian islands speak very goodly words, like aloha, hello, by the Hawaiians, kia kaha, stand strong, by the Aotearoa, fa'amalosi, be strong, by the Samoans. They are known for their good words and respect. Deut 33:23. And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, possesses thou the west and the south. And of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, their land is beautiful, and it gives things such as coconuts, taro, and other food of blessing. The tribe of Naphtali was very blessed. When it says, possesses thou the west and the south, Jacob was telling the exact place where they would dwell in the last days. They would be located in the southern hemisphere, and that word west in the Hebrew is a word yam, means a large body of water, west, ward. The tribe of Naphtali would possess land in the southern hemisphere surrounded by a large body of water westward. They possess Chile in the south of America, and west of Chile is South Pacific. History shows they were in Chile and are now in the South Pacific. Further proof. The phrase Native American was invented by the U.S. Government Department of the Interior in 1970. It is an inventory term used to keep track of people. It includes Hawaiians, Eskimos, Samoans, Micronesians, Polynesians, and Aleots. Anyone who uses the phrase Native American is assisting the U.S. government in its effort to obliterate people's true identities. Link: Native American Y chromosomes in Polynesia. The genetic impact of the Polynesian slave trade. Link. The Melanesians were in slavery, Blackbird. They also worked in the cotton fields in Fiji. The same Europeans were enslaving the Black Americans and the Micronesians and Polynesians, and they were brought back into South America to work on the guano industry. In the first half of the 19th century, small-scale slave raids took place across Polynesia to supply labor and sex workers for the whaling and sealing trades, with examples from both the westerly and easterly extremes of the Polynesians Triangle. By the 1860s, this had grown to a larger-scale operation with Peruvian slave raids in the South Sea Islands to collect labor for the guano industry. A lot of people from Naphtali fled before Columbus arrived in the 1500s, but many remained as well and fled into Argentina from Chile. Lima was not a name from Spain, but from the tribe of Naphtali. I wish I could bring forth more information on Naphtali, but still following up on research. Here is a book and some links for your own edification. Old Samoa by John Williams. Joseph, Ephraim, Manasseh, Puerto Ricans and Cubans. Gen 49:22. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. Gen 49:23. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. Gen 49:24. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Gen 49:25. Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. Gen 49:26. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. The name Ephraim means, I am fruitful. The name Manasseh means, made to forget. The blessing of Joseph went down to his two sons, who were recognized as two of the tribes of Israel. Jacob prophesied that Ephraim would be greater than his brother Manasseh. Genesis 48:13-20. When you see the name Joseph in the scriptures after his death, it is making reference to his two sons, Ephraim first, then Manasseh. These two tribes led the migration of the tribes of Israel to the Americas during the Assyrian captivity. Remember, the blessing was upon Ephraim first, then Manasseh. Gen 48:14. And Israel stretched out his right hand, and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the God which fed me all my life long unto this day. The angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn, put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused, and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. During the Middle Ages, the native Indians of Puerto Rico called themselves Boricua, a Hebrew word for brave. They called their island Borinquin, a Hebrew word for land of the brave lords, and some translations say many abundant. A Hebrew word? Yes, a Hebrew word. Little do you know that the language spoken on the island of Boricuan prior to the invasion of the Spaniards was Hebrew. This fact will be proven later on in this segment. Where did these so-called Indians, from Indio's Latin word for slave, come from? Did they come through the Bering Straits as recorded by the white man? No, they came from a land known as Israel in the Middle East. When they arrived in the New World, the tribes began to drop each other off, beginning in South America, then moving upward to Central America, the islands of Puerto Rico, Cuba, Hispaniola, and finally North America. In history books, the natives of the Americas are often called Arawaks. The word Arawak means groups of indigenous peoples that migrated from South America to Central North America. The so-called explorers of priests encountered them. The so-called Indians spoke the same language prior to the invasion of the Spaniards. This language, as was proven earlier, was Hebrew. That's why they had various trade routes to exchange and sell different materials. If they could not communicate with each other, these routes would not have existed. For example, the Seminole Indians and the Boricua Indians had close relations in trading and visited each other frequently. Even Ponce de Leon learned of these relations in his search for the mythical Fountain of Youth. The Boricua Indians sent him to the Seminoles in Florida. Now let's prove that Ephraim ended up in Puerto Rico and Manasseh in Cuba. The following is what happened to Montesinos, a Spanish explorer, when he visited the Seminole Indians in the mountains of Quito prior to their migration to Florida. This passage contains what was told to him by the natives concerning their identity and the identity of their brothers, located in Puerto Rico and Cuba. This information is found in Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders on pages 363-365. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montesinos, and, to his utter astonishment, said, Shema Yisroel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ehod. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. They had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism. They told him that they were themselves of the tribe of Reuben, and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby. The blessing of Joseph went down to his two sons Ephraim and Manasseh. A bough is a tree, so when the scripture says, even a fruitful bough by a well, it is showing us a comparison of how a tree that is planted near water is fruitful, the same way the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh would be located near water, island, and be very fruitful. Cuba means fruitful, and just like the name says, the so-called Puerto Ricans are fruitful, and just like the name says, the so-called Puerto Ricans are fruitful by having many children and very large families as well, whose branches run over the wall. The same way branches go over a wall that divides them from the other trees and branches, to mix with them, is the same way the daughters of Ephraim went over the wall of racial division to mix with the Spanish by marrying the Spaniards. The Spanish built a fort in Puerto Rico, encompassed by what's called El Morro, meaning the wall, which was meant to keep other invading whites from stealing Boricua slaves and taking Puerto Rico. The daughters of the Boricua had children from Spanish conquistadors. But what does the Most High say would happen to many of their children? Read Hosea 9:11-14. This proves the boy children die at birth. That's why in verse 12 it states, "There shall not a man left." Because the male carries the seed. If the male offspring survived, then they would produce Edomite children and not Ephraim. The girl children survived and lived and married Puerto Rican Indians, bringing forth true Ephraimite children. Because of this racial mixing, some Puerto Ricans are very light-skinned. The Bible prophesied about the mixing, read Hosea 7:8. The people that Ephraim mixed himself with were the Spaniards. In Hosea 7:8, when it says Ephraim is a cake not turned, means that the same way a pancake is not turned when bakes, one side would be dark and the other side light, is similar to the complexion of the so-called Puerto Ricans, which range from dark brown to a very light-skinned, some even appear Caucasian. But only those whose fathers are of Borinquen descent are Israelites. Genesis 49:23. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. The archers are talking about the conquistadors of Spain. They sorely grieved Ephraim by having the Boricua Indians work in gold mines and sugarcane fields under very hard and strenuous conditions. When Columbus came in 1493, he subdued Ephraim with great slaughter. Also, when Ponce de Leon came in 1508, he had 6,000 Boricua Indians shot because they protested slave-working conditions. Out of 40,000 Boricua Indians, only 4,000 remained on the island of Puerto Rico during this invasion. The Spaniards enslaved Ephraim and sent thousands of them to serve slavery in Spain and Hawaii on slave ships, Deuteronomy 28:68, and stripped Puerto Rico of its wealth and riches, Genesis 49:2. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Joseph's bow abode in strength because he kept the commandments. His hands were made strong when the Most High honored Joseph by making him second over all Egypt. Genesis 49:25. Even by the God of thy father who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall please thee with blessings of heaven about, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. Ephraim would have good weather on the island of Puerto Rico. Their island would be around seas and riches. Also the various exotic fish in the deep ocean. When it says, blessings of the breasts and the womb. This is talking about Ephraim being fruitful with many children, which is a beautiful blessing. So although many Boricua Indians were killed, Ephraim's fruitfulness kept the tribes in existence because of the Most High's blessings. Genesis 49:26. The blessings of thy father have prevailed about the blessings of my progenitors. Unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills, they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Jacob is letting Ephraim know that his father's blessings were greater than the blessings of Abraham and Isaac while they lived, because Joseph was extremely famous and was second under Pharaoh in Egypt and owed a vast amount of lands within Egypt. Joseph, being in this position, was able to support his father and the rest of his brethren and their children. Deuteronomy 33:13, And of Joseph he said, Blessed of the Lord be his land for the precious things of heaven, for the dew, and for the deep that couches beneath. Deuteronomy 33:14, And for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things put forth by the moon. The precious fruits are things like mangoes, papayas, avocados, pineapples, coconuts, bananas, and sugar cane, which are fruits the island is well known for. The precious things brought forth by the moon, for example, is the coqui, which is a small frog that can only live in Puerto Rico. It only comes out at night and makes a very distinctive whistle throughout the night. Deuteronomy 33:15. And for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills. This verse is talking about the great amount of diamonds, gold, and silver found in the mountains of Borinquin, which was the primary source of slave labor that the Boricua Indians were made to serve. The precious things of the lasting hills is talking about the coffee beans found in the hills of the island, Deuteronomy 33:16. And for the precious things of the earth and fullness thereof, and for the good will of him that dwelt in the bush, let the blessing come upon the head of Joseph, and upon the top of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. This is talking about the blessings that Joseph got when he was sold by his brothers and ended up in Egypt. Deuteronomy 33:17. His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth. And they are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. This means all the firstborn males are chosen by the Most High to be his. His horns refers to the leaders of Ephraim and Manasseh. The lost used the leaders of Ephraim and Manasseh to guide the 10 tribes of Israel to the ends of the earth, meaning the other side of the world, Arsareth, the Americas. Read 2 Esdras 13:40-45, Hosea 11:10. They shall walk after the Lord, he shall roar like a lion. When he shall roar, then the children shall tremble from the west. Hosea 4:17. Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone. The Bible prophesied how the so-called Puerto Rican and Cubans, Ephraim and Manasseh, would have many idols. The false one-eighth images of Christ, Cesare Borgia, Mary and Lazarus, are the main idols that they are joined to. They worship these idols by putting tattoos of these images on their bodies, putting statues on the dashboard of their cars, and wearing gold chains with these false images as pendants. Also in their homes, they make altars with the pictures of these images in the center, with different color candles around it. Let him alone means when you show a Puerto Rican that Christ is a black man, and they don't want to accept it, just leave him alone. Hosea 8:11. Because Ephraim hath made many altars to sin, altars shall be unto him to sin. 12. I have written to him the great things of my law, but they were counted as a strange thing. When they make these altars and worship these false images, they commit sin by breaking the first and second commandment. The many altars that Puerto Ricans keep in their homes have become a sin unto them, and they will not see the kingdom of heaven if they do not repent and cast away these powerless idols. The Heavenly Father tells us that he wrote unto Ephraim the many great things of his law, but Ephraim thought the laws of the Most High to be strange because of the lies taught to them by the white man. And it is because of these lies that the Puerto Ricans think it strange that the Bible is their history, that they are the tribe of Ephraim, and the Cubans are the tribe of Manasseh. Benjamin, West Indies, Jamaicans. Gen 49:27. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. Gen 49:28. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is it that their father spoke unto them and blessed them. Every one according to his blessing he blessed them. The tribe of Benjamin, along with Judah and Levi, were sold into captivity by the Africans and Arabs to the white man. The white man then transported them in chains on slave ships to Jamaica and various West Indian islands to serve hard bondage as slaves. During slavery, we had the Maroons. The word maroon is Latin, meaning wolf, primarily throughout the West Indies, which were runaway slaves that fled to the mountains and swamps of the islands. The white man could not subdue these men because they knew the land very well and could survive on their own, living off the land. They firmly believed in liberty or death. In other words, if they could not be free, they would rather be dead. Gen 49:27. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. The word raven in this sense means speak boldly, harshly. The tribe of Benjamin raven as wolves through their music by speaking the truth that they are Israelites and God will judge Babylon, America, and all who went against God's people, for the injustice they have done to the children of Israel, slavery, raping our women, dividing the families, etc. For example, in Jamaica and the other Caribbean islands, the white man buys up the best parts of the land and has the people work the land for almost nothing, slave labor. The tribe of Benjamin raven about their suffering and oppression by singing about it in their music, songs contrary to what was forced upon them by the white man through his religions, that Christ and the Israelites are white, etc. Certain artists speak through their music of America being Babylon. Psalms 137 proves America is Babylon, and how it's going to fall, Revelation 18:19-21. That Christ, Solomon, etc. are black, according to the Bible, and also sing about themselves being Israelites. Most reggae artists get their inspiration from the Bible, from books like Psalms and Revelation. When the scripture says, as a wolf, meaning the same way a wolf howls at its prey before attacking it, is the same way the tribe of Benjamin are howling at the white race through their music. Genesis 49:27 continues, In the morning he shall devour the prey. The morning represents the tribe of Benjamin, being raised up in rulership in the kingdom of heaven. Isaiah 9:2, The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. Verse 27 continues, And at night he shall divide the spoil. The night represents the end of the white man's rulership, 1 Esdras 6:9, with the second coming of Christ. Read Zephaniah 1:14-15. It will be the white man's night, captivity, and our day, rulership over all nations. Benjamin and the other tribes will divide the riches and wealth of the nations. Read Jeremiah 30:16, Dayut 33:12. And of Benjamin he said, The beloved of the Lord shall dwell in safety by him, and the Lord shall cover him all the day long, and he shall dwell between his shoulders. This is talking about the Most High protecting Benjamin from his enemies, and that the white man, during slavery, did not kill them off. In the end, the tribe of Benjamin shall devour the prey, which is the white man and other nations, for enslaving them. Where it says he shall cover them, this means he would bless Benjamin with good weather and land, etc. So the 12 tribes of Israel, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Bible, are Reuben, so-called Seminole Indians, Aboriginal Australians; Simeon, so-called Dominicans; Levi, so-called Haitians; Judah, so-called African Americans, Negroes; Zebulon, Guatemalans, Panamanians; Issachar, so-called Mexicans; Gad, so-called North American Indians; Asher, Colombians, Brazilians, Argentines, Venezuelans; Naphtali, Hawaiians, Samoans, Tongans, Fijians; Ephraim, so-called Puerto Ricans; Manasseh, so-called Cubans; Benjamin, so-called Jamaicans; Trinidadians, Guyanese. Why does it matter? Paul asked the same question. Why does it matter to know we are the people, God's chosen? Rom 3:1. What advantage then hath the Jew, or what profit is there from circumcision? Rom 3:2. Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of God. Paul asked himself, what advantage is it that we are Jews, because Paul himself was a Jew from the tribe of Benjamin, Romans 11:1. And the answer he receives is because the Jews were given the oracles, the word, the commandments. Psalms 147:19-20. The Jews were given the commandments. The whole Bible is about the Jews. They are God's chosen who would get the promise through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel. And only the Jews can bring the understanding of this book and be a light to the world, Matthew 5:13-16. But now, since the Jews are living at the bottom of the earth because we have been stripped of all of our biblical knowledge, Hosea 4:1-6, Jeremiah 17:4, a foolish people have been placed above us, Deuteronomy 32:21, Romans 11:11, preaching the word completely contrary to what the Bible says with doctrines such as the Immaculate Conception, rapture, Trinity, idol worship, and pagan practices, along with philosophy. It is now our job in these last days to humble ourselves and come back to Christ and the Father and preach the truth and be leaders in these last days, as Revelation's prophecies will do. Rev 7:1. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Rev 7:2. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. Rev 7:3. Saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. Rev 7:4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 140 and 4,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Rev 7:5. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. Rev 7:6. Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. Rev 7:7. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. Rev 7:8. Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. So in the last days there would be 12,000 leaders, men, who would be marked as the leaders in the last days, who would bring forth this truth, who would have a testimony of who they are. How can these people know who they are if they aren't being told they are the real Jews? All these men would see the wickedness of this world and see Christ is nowhere in this world, that the churches are deceiving people, that the Jewish people are of the synagogue of Satan and are running everything we see today along with Satan, that God's chosen people are asleep and in a state of slumber and find it as their duty to wake up these people. Asa 9:4. And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the cities, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh, and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Overall, the most important thing I want to write is that, after learning you're an Israelite isn't enough, now we must continue to seek wisdom, research, and get the understanding on the true Christ, and not the Christ being preached in the world. Once we find the true Christ and truly understand his walk, that's where it all begins. Christ should always be our foundation, and we must be grounded in him. How can we understand Christ when we don't understand ourselves?